When you're factoring, I've told you that you look for the number of terms. The first thing you want to do is look for the greatest common factor. You can see that this would be a times a, and this would be 7 times 7. So the greatest common factor is a 1. So since these are two terms, it will either be difference of squares, sum of cubes, or difference of cubes. A squared is the hint, and 7 squared is the hint. This is difference of squares. So a squared minus 7 squared difference of squares. A squared minus b squared is equal to a plus b, a minus b. A squared minus 7 squared is a plus 7, a minus 7. When you have three terms, the first thing you do is look for the greatest common factor. Here you have x times x. Here you have 2 times 2 times 3x. And here you would have 3 times 3 times 5. So the greatest common factor is a 1. Since it's three terms and the leading coefficient is a 1, when your leading coefficient is a 1, you're looking for two numbers that when you multiply, you get the C value. But when you add those same numbers, you get the middle term coefficient. Have y'all figured it out? What two numbers can you multiply, give you a negative 45? But when you add, we'll give you a negative 12. Anyone? How about a negative 15 and a positive 3? A negative 15 plus 3 would give you a negative 12. Let's break down 48. 2 times 24. 24 would be 2 times 12. 12 would be 2 times 6. 6 would be 2 times 3. Double check yourself. 2 times 2 is 4. Times 2 is 8. Times 2 is 16. Times 3 is 48. H times H. 27 would be 3 times 9. 9 would be 3 times 3. And your k squared. What do they have in common? So that's your greatest common factor. That's what you have to put in the front. You have 2 4s and 2 h's. So that's going to be 4h squared. You have 2 3's and 2 k's. So that's going to be 3k squared. This is difference of squares. So with your greatest common factor in the front, you would have 4h plus 3k, 4h minus 3k. Two terms, you do have a plus sign. We have 2 times 3 and then x to the power of 6. Two times 2 times 3 times 3. 6 times 6 is 36. Now some of you do not have to do this step. You've already spotted that the 6 x to the third is the greatest common factor. Some of you still have to break it down and see it visually that 6 x to the third is what they have in common. Your greatest common factor goes in the front. You have x cubed, a plus sign. 2 times 3 is left over. That's a 6. When you have two terms left over, you have x to the third and a plus sign. The only possibility here would be the sum of cubes. 6 is not a number cubed, so therefore you know you are done. On number 5, you solve by factoring. There are 3 terms here. Xx, 5x, 2 times 3. Greatest common factor is a 1. So we are looking for two numbers that when you multiply, you get a 6. But when you add those same numbers, you get a negative 5. So two numbers that when you multiply, you get 6. But when you add those same numbers, you get the middle coefficient, which is negative 5. A negative times a negative is a positive. Negative 2 times negative 3 is a positive 6. Negative 2 plus a negative 3 is a negative 5. In order for two things to be multiplied and equal 0, then either this x minus 2 needs to be a 0, or the x minus 3 needs to be a 0. So set each factor equal to 0, and then solve. So the opposite of subtracting a 2 is to add a 2. The opposite of subtracting a 3 is to add a 3. And remember, we said that these are solutions, roots, x-intercepts, zeros. All right, on number 6, we talked about when there was no bx, you have ax squared plus bx plus c. When there is no middle term, you can use the square root method. You use the square root method by isolating the b squared. So we're going to add 81. Then you're going to take the square root of both sides, and when you do, you get two answers, the plus and the minus. So we will have b is equal to a positive and a negative 9. These are both quadratics. Your 2 and 3 is where it crosses the x-axis. Here you have a parabola. It would be crossing the x-axis at negative 9 and 9. So hopefully you're starting to see this visually when you get your solutions. you see that, hey, that's a quadratic, it's a parabola, it's crossing the x-axis. These are my solutions, my roots, my x-intercepts, my zeros.